Hi, and welcome to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie Passon, and I am a relationship expert, international speaker, and best-selling author of a book, Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news, TV, social media, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. So here today, we have Andre Paradis, and we are going to talk about how to understand men and women. Hi, Andre, how are you?
Good morning. Big state. I love what you said, like, what's the cultural belief about, relationship is like false. You didn't say kind of off, false. And I completely agree with you. It's completely
It's an image that's being like sold to us. That's something that, the Disney movie is what is being sold to us.
It's a big lemon. It's a big lemon. It's a big lemon. It's a cause of problem of everything. Like, I'm a relationship coach, as you are, and I see it every single day of my life. It's just, belief system.
So tell us a bit about yourself. So you've said obviously you're a relationship coach, but you've got a slightly different angle, haven't you?
Do I? Like, it's my story is interesting. I started my life as a teenager, going from awkward to, I had a really strange family setup where I believed that I was born in the wrong family. So it left me really kind of awkward, terrified as a kid, but awkward kid, the kid who didn't fit anywhere. The kid was, I was watching everybody, first of all, just because I was trying to understand, how the hell can I be born in the wrong family? How is it even possible? But it was palatable. I was 5 years old, like, just.
What was giving you that feeling and that belief?
It just took a while. I always had a sense of that, even as a toddler. But ultimately, something about I wasn't wanted, and the circumstance of my parents' life, like, I was just to be ignored. I was not supposed to be there. I was not supposed to be there. It was palatable. I didn't belong there. I wasn't supposed to be born. I wasn't supposed to be there. So resentment by my mother's even having to carry me and birth me was. I was born with that on my nervous system, knowing that. But it took to the age of 5 to put, like, thoughts to the feelings and realize, like, I don't belong. I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this is all wrong, which is weird, right? And terrifying. But I became the observer of the world and people, trying to understand that like, how is it even possible? How does that work? Confusing and weird. But in that, it kept me outside of the norm. I was a watcher, not a doer, not a participator. But when I turned 15 years old, I ended up in a ballroom class in my school. In the first dance class, watch the teacher and just copy everything I'm seeing, like, instantly, which is bizarre because that's my first time that there's something I could do that I was good at, and it was a God gift, but I didn't know till that moment. And I was like, wow. So I go from geek to star in that class within a matter of a few months. I'm assisting the teacher. All the girls want to dance with me because the other guys aren't picking up. So now, wait, what? Like, now I'm visible and talented and looked after and sort of sought out even. So we started performing even in the school system, and I became like, that's the only thing I want to do because it lifted my spirit, made me happy. There's something about dancing and movement and music all combined that just lifts your spirit, and that's all I wanted to do. So I made a career out of that. From then on, I stopped ballroom dancing and got into commercial jazz, and within a few years I made my way to Los Angeles. I danced with Michael Jackson, I danced with Prince, I danced with Paul Abdul, I danced with Julio Iglesias. I just went around the world teaching, performing. I made it a life, and fantastic, like crazy, from this awkward kid to, like, working with the big guys. My wife is a ballerina. I met her in one of my classes, because when you perform, you teach, you travel, you come back, you teach, right? It's all part of the machine. So met my wife in my class. Oopsie, like, where else are you going to meet your wife, right? Like, 45 beautiful girls all around you all the time, just, seeking. I had my radar's up, and boop, locked in on her. And we both traveled the world in opposition. We had different work, in 2000, we decided to start a family. So we've been married for a few years, but kind of we're living our lives. So I quit traveling because I wasn't going to be the guy who wasn't present for his kids. So I opened a car business in Los Angeles. that was just such a delight to start restoring old cars. But it turned into a full repair shop. My business was 6 minutes from my house. My house was 2 blocks from the school. So both me and my wife were there every school meet, every parade, every recital, right? Like I was both of us. And that's the way I wanted to be present with my kids. But I was always a guy who researched challenged myself. I started taking personal development workshops when I was 23.
Yeah.
I was always hunting for what I didn't know. And so in 2006, I was in Northern California in a workshop for upping my business revenues, my business. I meet this couple, this 3-day workshop. On a flight back to Los Angeles, the girl says to me, what are you doing next weekend? And they go, oh, this weekend I'm free. She's like, you want to come to a workshop on Saturday? It's on me. I'm like, of course, because these things are expensive. And she's inviting me to a free workshop, in town. Like, I'm like, of course. And then I go, wait, what is it? What's the workshop about? And she's like, oh, it's called Understanding Women. Okay. Like, understanding women, like, how's that going to help my life, right? I have a wife, I have 2 kids. The kids are babies at the time, but they're little, but we're doing great. Understanding women, like, okay, I got this. Like, I got this. Like, what are you gonna, So I went to the workshop because I said I would, thinking it was gonna be cute. And oh my God. That's all I can say. To this day, I still shake my head thinking about it. By the end of the workshop, my brain was all over the walls. Like, my brain exploded. I realized I knew nothing about women, and more dangerous was I knew nothing about my wife. And it instantly explained some of the stuff that confused me about my wife, even though she's easygoing and low maintenance, really, but like, she's still a girl. I'm not going to mess it up just because I didn't know that. My brain can't even consider that. Like, so of course, that was the beginning of that adventure. I dove in the company's curriculum. I took all their workshops. I'm a teacher, so in no time I became one of their teachers.
Yeah,
that didn't work out with that company, but I got all I could out of them. But continue my research, because by then I realized the layers. I could explain to you and approach the different facets of relationships, how we relate men and women, men, women, it's all the same. How do people who are successful do it in building a long-term, healthy, loving relationship? That's a big deal, because like you said earlier, in our culture, everybody's confused, everybody's in pain, everybody's, men are like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. And the women are like, you got to meet me up here. Like, well, yeah, well, what are you going to do for him to meet you up here, right? Like, you can't just demand that with arrogance. So eventually I had to sell my successful car business a few years back to do this full time.
Yeah. So tell us, what is like one of the differences between a man and a woman? I'm sure there's more than one, obviously, but start somewhere.
Well, problem number one, we teach and want to believe and push the idea that, men and women are equals. Now, equal rights, equal pay, equal importance being, yes, of course, that. But the idea that men and women are the same, that it's just the way we're raised that makes us different. There's no nature in place. It's nurture that makes men stoic, and it's nurture that makes women nurturing and loving more and more aware of their environment and more community oriented and more love driven, right? So it's not. I
mean, there's obviously going to be an element of that.
Of course.
But as you say, it's not just about that. I mean, I know that for me, for instance, I was an only child. I was mainly raised with adults. And when I started working, I was mainly with men. And you can argue that I possibly think a little bit more like a man. I'm more of a fixer than I would be someone who needs to talk it through. But that still doesn't mean that I'm not wired like a woman who's going to multitask and do 10 things at once, And
it's very, very hard to push against I call it the cultural tidal wave of belief. You know what I mean? When it's in the culture and they push that through, people just follow. It's impossible almost to resist or to not get sucked in. But when you teach women that they have to be more like men to be good women, you teach men they have to be like girls and talk and be sweet and sensitive and vulnerable to be more valuable males. And everybody's buying into it, by the way, both men and women. So we take what's nature. Everything I teach is nature and science. It's not my opinion, right? Men and women in nature, masculine and feminine, everything in nature is polarized. Everything is polarized. Everything that grows, that flourishes, that expands is polarized, right? Like there's a magnet, yin and yang, black and white, right? Magnets, positive and negative. Everything is magnetized. That's the juice of life. And then we decide that that's stupid. So we go neutralize everything. And this is why nobody can get it together, because you neutralize the system, you neutralize nature. So a masculine woman is not a better woman. She's actually a masculine woman, which actually most men find irritating, disrespectful, right? Disrespectful to his masculinity, right? But the more you think that's the way to go and you're proud of this, these are my clients who end up on the dance floor alone, I call it, right? Men will leave them on the dance floor, like not interested in that. And then women get all hurt.
So tell us more. What is the masculine and what is the
Well,
feminine?
if we go back to nature, right? This is all I'm teaching. This is why we're going against nature. It's not working. There's a price to pay, which means things don't work out the way nature intended. Like in every area of nature, masculine and feminine. Like the males never act like the females in all species ever. They're complementary. They come together to create life and to continue the species, but they don't act the same ever. But we decided we should. So masculinity, we know masculinity is men are fighters, right? They like to fight, conquer, push, penetrate, change. Have it, that's there's a pushiness, there's a lust for things to be different. Men invented everything that we use today in the world. Everything was invented by men, almost 100%, right? Men have this idea of like dishwasher was not invented for men. It was invented for women, so that women would be more available to men. Washing machines, like the walls and air conditioning to keep us all comfortable, right? But men do this for women. Men do this for society, for culture. Men use their energy to build and invent and make everybody more comfortable, really, if they're good men. Ultimately, this is not what's happening out there necessarily. When we raise men out of that, this is what I'm seeing all around, right? This falling. So masculinity is controlling, pushing, conquering, fighting. Femininity is more about creating life, Mother Earth, Mother, creating life, and then nurturing that life and nurturing the people that make that possibility possible, right? Women need help to raise healthy children. Women need a lot of support, financial safety. Women need safety in order to be able to raise healthy children, right? It works. Like men will go kill themselves and protect, provide, and cherish women and their offsprings to make them healthy offsprings and keep her in a space that she can take care of them like this. So this classic system, but we decided that all that's stupid. Women are better off in the world being more masculine and don't get married because that's slavery for women. Really.
Just a question going back to the raising of kids and stuff. What happens if the woman can't have kids?
That happens.
Because through nature, so people
absolutely
can't.
That happens.
What I mean is like, what does that render her useless, so to speak? Then a role is not being fulfilled, is it?
There's more women in the world than there are men by a few percent. So, and when I was little, watching all this, I'm 12 years old, going, oh, of course we have nuns. We have nuns because there's no husbands for these women. There's too many women. So some women don't get to do any of that, right? They get to be nuns. They get to be whatever. There's too many women. There's 54% of the population is women. So that means 4% of them.
But what if a woman doesn't want to be a nun?
I know.
But can't have kids.
Don't have kids. Some women don't want kids, and some women should not have kids, right? They're by temperament sometimes, or by lifestyle upbringing, or life injuries, do not want the responsibility, right? They're more driven. What they contribute to the world is different. It's more masculine. That's okay. But my point is, what I'm seeing day in and day out is the culture is women should have everything, like a high paying job, CEO of some company, or super successful with their own business, whatever, but also should have a husband and 3 kids and a house that is impeccable, fancy cars, and it's all Cinderella stuff, right? Well, it's impossible. You can't do both. It's either, if a women who go into the business world hard, typically the love life isn't unattainable, falls apart, or doesn't exist at all, right? So the women who seem to have it all do the other way around. So in a simple way to do it is, instead of taking the money lane, they take the love lane first. That then eventually, after the love lane is in place, they're fulfilled, they're happy, and then continues into producing in the world a little bit afterwards. So women who have it all do family, children first. And then this 5 years into it, as soon as the kids go to school, they go back into the business world. That's having it all. But if you go business first and thinking you're gonna have kids and maybe like husband and kids later, these are all my clients. Because at 35 years old, when the clock is going, oh shit, we have to do this now, it's too late. The men who want to be married are married. The ones who are leftovers have been either the losers, the boys I call them, or have been married. don't want to do that again. They have kids, right? So,
and to be fair, 30 to 35, I feel, is where you've got there's a lack of
absolutely.
men because they are either currently married or not yet divorced.
Right. But I mean, a lot of women, my clients come at me with, like, I'm lovely, I'm still young, I'm still pretty, I work my ass off, I have my own house, my own car, my own beautiful, fantastic, great, good for you. But they're so masculine, they don't understand why men don't ask them out, because now they want relationships, now they want companionship, now they're coming around to this career and this money does not make me happy, I'm lonely, I come home alone to my cat, right? So, but I mean,
we're not going to generalize, but some men like that in a woman. I get why some don't. They might feel, especially the alpha male, he's not going to appreciate that. But some men do admire that. Oh, don't they?
A working woman, the boys love it because they, she does the work and she makes the money. He doesn't. He wants to be the girl, so he wants to be comfortable. He gets to, spend the afternoon on the couch, fooding the dog and smoking a joint when he's writing his music. I'm just saying, right? So that's 30% of the men, by the way, out there now. We shame them out of being masculine, so they pull out and they don't do not anything. And they were so proud of you, go girl, and that second promotion and get that raise while sitting on your couch. He's moving into your apartment. He's driving your car because he can't fix this piece of crap, right? He borrows money from you that he promised he'll pay back. He never does. And in a few months, you wonder what the hell happened to your life. Inside out, we flip the script. We make you masculine, which eventually kills you. You're not built for that, ultimately, your nervous system. And he's just sitting around. And he's like basically what women are to men. You know what I mean? He's available and sweet and lovely and seductive and passive and just, it's ridiculous. Now it works to a point and then it falls apart again. You're going against nature, it's going to bite you in the ass. And, you call it new freedom, new normal. I don't care. It doesn't work. Not for long. They're not for long.
One of the things you talk about is gender intelligence. Tell us more about that.
Again, right? Like if you're going to buy into this belief, social belief that we're equals, you're an idiot. We're not equals. We say we're as equal rights again. Equal. Yes, you know what I'm saying, like, but we're as equal as our genitals. Not at all. Completely opposite, but again, made to fit. Everything about men and women is in opposition, but made to fit. So it's complicated to understand each other because we're completely opposite. What I find interesting, she doesn't find interesting. What motivates me doesn't motivate her. What I think is really cool, she's like, really? And what she thinks is really cool, it bores the hell out of me, right? We're different. There is such a thing as boy things and girl things. There are stereotypes. People want to say eliminate stereotypes. They're toxic. They exist. Why? Because they exist. There's men things and girl things, men, car, girl, whatever. I don't care. Guy flicks and chick flicks. We all know this. So what are we talking about here, right? Stop trying to neutralize our differences. We have to celebrate them and put them together. That's the greatest thing about the energy that we need.
So how do you put them together? When, your wife wants to talk about something or make you watch something that's going to bore you to tears. And then you want to talk about your latest gadget that is going to bring her to tears.
This is what I call gender intelligence. You have to if you're a man wanting to be in a relationship with a woman, build something with a woman, I go gender intelligence. You have to cross the bridge into woman world and understand what motivates a woman, why she takes things personally, why her radar is so sensitive, why she says stuff like, oh, it's what I need is so little. Why can't I just give me what to a man that means nothing because it's so little, right? So so if you're intelligent, smart, and want to really build something as opposed to complain about what's not working, cross the bridge into woman world if you're a man and go find out what they need, why they need it, what their instinct is compelling them to do. Like blah, blah, blah. This is fantastically exciting. And there's such discovery there. It's amazing. Right? Instead of complaining and saying, they're all crazy. Well, that's good luck with that, you dumbass. Excuse my French, but same with ladies. So gender intelligence for the women is cross the bridge into men world. Go find out what motivates men and why. There's all like DNA reasons, instinct reasons. There's a whole with 2.5 million years of evolution. We're trying to eradicate that in a few decades. It's ridiculous, right? There's this reason, everything instinctive about men and women is opposite of what you make sense to you that sort of seems reasonable or whatever. So cross the world into men world, ladies. And what's fantastic about this in my world is when you understand men and their reasoning and their motivation, get this, 50% of everything you take personally goes away. That's a different life right there, just there. Because instead of like, why the hell is he, right? And take things personally, you're like, oh my God, look at that. He's da, 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 da. You understand his motivation. He's protecting and often controlling. And it looks weird. Oh, he's being a man.
But I think one of the issues is that you need to get willingness from both parties, because I can think of some people who are more than happy to learn this, but I can think of quite a few that it would be more about, well, he needs to understand me first, or she needs to understand me first before whatever.
That's also in the culture, right? And the
Yeah.
culture is like, like never in the history of mankind did we have self-help, self-care, development, worship, like everybody's trying to find their selves. You know what I mean? So how many you find yourself in a relationship? The relationship is the mirror of how you show up. What's wrong with you? What your quirks are? What it is that makes the wheels come off for him, for her.
Yeah.
Right? It's in relationships. It's doing life that you find how how. I have a client who's constantly, she's 42 years old, constantly pissing everybody off. Like makes enemies out of everybody she meets, men, women, at work. She takes a workshop to learn something. Everybody hates her. I'm like, are you not getting this? It's not them. It's you, right? You're acting like a shitty teenager and you wonder why everybody hates you. That's the mirror. But we all need a version of that. She's an extreme case, but like this is how we actually find out how we fit in the world, and what's wrong with you on some level and what's good with you. And so you define yourself in relationships, and the personal ones the most, because everything's in your face.
So what would you define as being the man's brain then? What is a man's brain?
A man's brain, and again, that's not 100%. There's no such thing. So when I talk about all this stuff, by the way, you have to allow me generalizations, because there's typically it's this 80-20 rule. 80% of men function this way. There's 20% who don't. Same with women. But it's a rule that applies to everything in life.
There's always an exception.
80-20 rule with everything, right? So some people are hybrids, the 20%. They kind of like, are very, very their own. But if you're going to specifically talk about a man brain, 90% of men are right-handed men, 10% are left-handed men, different beasts, different machine, different males, different brain. We know this. And so, but if you're 90% a right-handed man, you live through your left brain, left lobe, which is logical, linear, calculated, planning, one thing at a time, talk about it, logical, it's all linear, right? Now we both have both, by the way, so we both are masculine and feminine in the same bodies, yin and yang, same thing. The right lobe is what we call the more feminine lobe, which is more creative, more flexible, more going with the flow, right? More in the moment. So a man watching TV when he's not thinking is actually in his right lobe. You know what I mean? And just experiencing life. So two different machines there. But most men live here, which is very hard for women to connect with them when they're here, because they look disconnected. They're inside out. They're in their heads, literally. So they feel like they look like you could be sitting next to him and he's completely unaware of you. That's the hunter brain, absolutely, right? So he's got to be focused on you for you to record on his brain. But sitting next to him, women will say, like, he's just, I might as well not be there. He would notice, right? But he's focused on something else, right? So men go from focus to focus to focus to from duty to duty, from mission to mission, And
I think that's one thing that, I remember when much younger, I think I was about 21, 22. And the boyfriend I had at the time, I would say to him, because I was very insecure back then, and that said to him, "Oh, what are you thinking?" Explaining expecting something really deep and profound. And I would either get beans on toast or nothing. And I just could not understand how you could think of nothing. It wasn't a thing for me. I was like, how can you think of nothing? He's hiding something from me.
It's impossible.
Because at 21, 22, whatever age I was, I just didn't get it.
No, and then again, it's another way that we're completely different, right? Like men have an instinct to spend a whole lot of energy doing something, right? Hunting, going to work, doing the lawn, right?
Then you put it in that box. Then you open the next
in
box.
between boxes, there's a recovering of our chemistry. There's a rebuild of testosterone. So there's typically like something that takes energy and then unplug. Now, when a man sits down, Dr. John Gray says, because he's got a switch on his butt, when he sits down, the switch goes off. And what happens then, he's going to sit for about 30 minutes to an hour, depending how tired he is. And basically his whole system shuts down, and he's rebuilding his chemistry, testosterone. He's rebuilding the energy he needs for the next mission. I totally get that. I'm a man. It's so exactly what happened. If I'm working, or if it's Saturday morning, I've been working all week, and I always have a plan. Another thing women don't understand, I always have a plan, but I don't share my plans. I have no instinct of sharing my plan. I just have a plan for today. If the plan is to sit in front of the TV and watch the game on recorded game until noon, that's what I'm doing. But often even that, I could be sitting on the couch without the TV on, between missions is really more what it is. The switch is flicked, and literally as my body goes click, and then machines got to rebuild it from the back, I could sit there with the TV on or off, and my wife could say, "What are you doing?" Nothing. And I told him absolutely nothing, but rebuilding, recharging. You know what I mean? What are you thinking about? Nothing. I could be watching TV and not watch the TV at all, be into that nothing place as I'm recharging. And to a woman, it's unthinkable, right? Because you're going 600 miles an hour. You have 19 things on your mind. You go from task. That's the gatherer brain, completely different system, an opposition of his completely. And thank God we're different, because again, that's one way we come together. If men were like women, there'd be chaos everywhere. Men do one thing at a time. Gatherers do 20 things at a time, 8 things at a time, right? Look at that, perfectly fitted, right? But it looks weird when you're on the other side. Men look disconnected, detached, shallow because they don't talk so much, right? Selfish because he never seems to be aware of anybody around him. That's a hunter. Hunter doesn't have to care who's around him. He's on mission, on point to survive. Gatherers are aware of everybody around them at all times, especially the things that are alive, the energy. Somebody's angry in the room, that's all she can see. Takes over, right? But aware of everyone all the time. So you're always aware of the male men in your life, the the energy around you, because that's also how you survive. We have none of that going ever. So it's weird. So we look shallow, and to us, you look crazy. You care about stuff that is not to care about. Why do you put energy in that? Why do you take that personally? Why do you let that go? And now you want to kill him. He's telling you how to feel, because men don't live their lives through their feelings. They live their lives through logic. You live your lives completely through your feelings, and often logic makes you feel cold, dry, disconnected. But see how beautiful that is, though? Right? It's just stop making each other wrong and blended, right? What men need from women is the part that we don't have, and vice versa. So stop fighting on differences. It's really the couples who succeed, straight, gay, or lesbian, by the way, do look behind me. This is what they do. They learn to dance together. They both have their role that they're proud of. They step in 100%, and they don't try to be like each other. They complement each other, and in that they build the partnership.
So just to give you an example, because this is actually a friend of mine. He was with a woman. He's no longer with her. But one of the things that used to happen quite a lot is that she had, in life in general, to be frank, not just in relationships, in life in general, very, very fixed ideas of what something should be. I love
that. Should be. Ooh, yeah. That's so easy to be around somebody like this.
Yeah, because I mean, I used to think, well, I'm a woman and I don't look like that. But anyway, such is life, we're all different, Anyway, one of the things, for instance, and he used to be told quite regularly, to the point that he lost quite a lot of confidence, that he was not a real man. Because, for instance, a real man, when you walk into a restaurant or a pub or a bar, whatever, the real man goes to, you sit down and you should already know what drink you're having, and goes to the bar, orders it, pays for it, and then comes back. And he wouldn't do that, because he's a normal person. He would just sit, study the menu and say what you're having, and then, go and order. And she would say, "You're not a real man. You haven't." And this is one example. There were loads like that.
So get this. This is, again, from the feminine perspective, a real man, because you're like that, right? Like the first time you go for coffee with a stranger, a male, that may be a date, right? The first time you're gatherers, you gather information, you gather everything. This is your brain. You built for that, those details. The first time you go for coffee with a man, what he takes in his coffee, right? And he'll have a coffee with you and have no idea what the frick you put in your damn coffee, because that's not important. He's caught up in your eyes, it's caught up in your presence, it's caught up in your, he's in the moment. 4 months later, you're still dating the guy, you go for coffee and he goes, "What do you think of your coffee?" And you lose your mind. Because obviously he doesn't care, because you knew 4 months ago how he takes his coffee. Gatherer brain. Gatherer brain. That's not a man's brain. To you, that's loving and caring and cherishing, to be so aware of everybody and what they need and what they like. When you keep tab, you have a brain for that. You have a memory bank filled with details. Man, don't do that. Men aren't wired that way. Our brains can't do that. So what happened is women think men should be more like them. And if he can't read her mind because she's already has all these bits together about him, that there's something wrong with him. Unreasonable, stupid. It's actually stupid. You can't make, nobody's going to read your mind. Even women will fail at this, even though they're wired the same, right? So ladies, wake the hell up.
But at the same time, I think that's where, like what you were saying about going over the bridge, you know, I know, I can think of a person in particular that is quite the typical man, as you just described it. One task at a time, can't remember dates, can't remember stuff like that. But we make efforts when something is important, and he knows it's important, if not to him, to the person, so he make an effort. But the real, so that's the compromise, I suppose. But the thing with this particular example that I felt was extremely wrong was to keep on repeating that he was not a real man.
Imagine me going up to any woman and going, you know, you're not a real woman. You know, you're not pretty enough. You're not feminine enough. You're too thick. You know, you need to wear like different shoes, different clothes. How about your makeup? What's wrong with your makeup? Like, that's not cool. Like, don't you care? Don't you care the way you look? That you're not a real woman. A real woman looks like her. You would kill me. But we have no problems with this man. And they should take it with a smile and not be offended. So when you think you have the right to say anything you want to men in the way of you're going to make them act right, they walk away. And you're the...
And to be fair, I wish her luck, because I don't think where she find the man that she feels is the real man that she desires, because I've never seen one of them. They don't exist.
But again, in her mind, her upbringing, her belief system, like that a man should be more like her, like a woman, to be a good man, because she demands that kind of, well, it's ridiculous. It's unrealistic, and she'll be alone the rest of her life. And then really, by the time she's 50 something, she'll be blaming all men for her being lonely. You know, there's an energy that you have to bring for them to hang on to you that way. There's a hook, right? But being righteous, being, you know, in her face, making them wrong. Are you crazy? Like, how's that going to work? Let me make you wrong every time you open your mouth and see how much you care for me.
So how do you get to that spot with a man, but also with a woman?
Well, that's what I call gender intelligence. When you understand more what a woman needs, oh my God, men are like, oh, I have no idea. I'm like, no, of course you have no idea, because your brain's out. Right. So go learn. That's what a caring person does. That's what a smart person does. Go learn. Ladies, go learn. Don't be righteous. Don't demand. Don't decide what's right. So when you kind of at least learn the basic and then start practicing this dancing, right? And the beginning is awkward. You step on each other's toes, and you know the flow of that. But it's not equality. It's complementary. That's couples, right? So it's nobody's more powerful than the other. We come together. One typically wants to lead more. The other one wants to support more. Partnership is together. It's dancing. It's together, side by side, like me as a team. And that's the polarized, back to the beginning, polarized nature. Everything that works is in polarity. Equalize the thing, it dies. So masculine women, okay, see how far it takes you. Feminine men, okay, look around, right? So I'm going back to nature. So again, there's two pieces of a puzzle. It's a partnership, not women in front, not men in front. That's bullshit. And that's what we've all been sold. And even men believe this. It's so everywhere.
Right. Andre, thank you. That's fine. You know, we're nearing the end of our time together. So before we go, can you just share one last pearl of wisdom?
It's funny because people listen to me and a lot of people go, right? Cultural tidal wave.
Right, it's controversial.
It's not. It's nature. It's
for people we see it. That's controversial.
It's countercultural, yes. So if you believe everything you've been sold, then of course it's completely backwards, and you know. But a lot of people resonate with this stuff. This because I'm talking about nature and I teach nature. You know, sometimes even the hardcore feminists, we get like they want to make me wrong. They want to tell me I'm misogynistic and anti-women, and I'm like, it's exactly no. You know nothing about me. I'm exact opposite. I want men and women to get along. I love women. I love men. It's fun when I get them to just stop and listen for a second, and they stop fighting me, because I'm not a pig. I'm not misogynistic. I'm not anti-women. I'm not trying to take anybody back to the 50s. And then I go, no, look this way. And they go, huh, never thought about it that way. I'm like, there you go. So if anybody is listening to me and something resonates and you see the challenge that you have in life, you have this free offer. If you go to andregroupcoaching.com, it's easy to remember. It takes us to my calendar. You can book an hour with me, and everything comes back from childhood. All of us get imprinted between the age of 5 and 11, and we believe things about ourselves, the world, people, and life. I'm not good enough. Men are terrible. I can't trust anybody, right? These drivers drive our lives. So women who are stuck in the masculine have a story like this in the beginning that they even forgot about, and so do men. So like that call, we get to peel back what happened to you, and there's nothing wrong with you. You're a product of your past. What's the dream?
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And for everybody else, if you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.